Hi guys, good morning and welcome to another episode of Motorcyclist MC Commute. You guys know the deal. We're going to be riding to the motorcyclist office in Southern California on Honda's 2020 Rebel 500 ABS. So let's throw the helmet on and go for a ride.
Well guys, here it is, Honda's 2020 Rebel 500 ABS. Honda's been manufacturing these Rebel motorcycles for 35 years. In 2017, they gave the Rebel a total overhaul. 3 years later, we have the 2020 Rebel 500 ABS. This year, Honda's put a number of changes to this motorcycle. All LED headlights, or all LED lighting, I should say. Look at that 4 LED beam headlamp, the round-shaped LED turn signals, LED taillight, even the license plate light is LED. Honda's also fitted heavier-duty suspension. The fork has stiffer fork springs. The shocks now benefit from nitrogen inside. Nitrogen helps give more consistent damping when the shocks encounter bumps. The seat is also thicker. This Rebel 500 ABS is actually outfitted with a number of accessories, including a custom seat available as a Honda accessory, the fork leg boots, and that front cowl. There's also a 12-volt power port that you can see in the cockpit. Overall, I really like the aesthetic of this motorcycle. This thing looks like a Harley Davidson, and I mean that in a good way. Very beautiful motorcycle. The only thing I don't like aesthetically on this bike is the throttle body plate. I wish that plate was black instead of silver, but besides that, very nice looking motorcycle. But enough talking about it. Let's hop on this thing and see what it's like to ride. Alright guys, here we go. Good old-fashioned mechanical key. Good job, Honda. You insert the key on the left-hand side of the bike, as is traditionally with a cruiser. And away we go, guys. Right away, sitting on this motorcycle, this thing is an exceptionally easy bike for someone who wanted to ride motorcycles to experience. The seat height is just over 2 feet high, 27-inch seat height. I don't really know a motorcycle that offers a lower seat height than this machine. Makes it very easy to stand flat-footed at a standstill. The seat pan on this motorcycle, it cups your butt just right, and that helps keep you in position when you're on the brakes or on the throttle. There isn't a lot of room to move front or back in the seat. You're kind of just fixed in that position, but that's not a bad thing. This Rebel 500 ABS has mid controls. So most standard cruisers have more forward mount controls, which you put your feet out here, and then most standard street bikes have rear controls. This thing has mid, so it's kind of splits the difference between the two. Starting to get some traffic here, guys. Let's zoom past these people and then we'll start yapping some more. Love how zippy this motorcycle is around town. Very maneuverable too, and narrow. This is a very well-sized motorcycle for someone who just wants to ride around the city. And away we go, guys. Go back to the ergonomics for a second. This handlebar it has a nice upright bend, puts you in a decently not aggressive but not totally relaxed position either, which is nice. But the handlebar is so narrow. That's one feature I don't really like about this bike, is how narrow the handlebar is. It makes you feel like you're riding a more entry-level type machine. I'm 6 foot tall and I fit on this motorcycle. I fit on it okay, but it's definitely, this bike is set up for smaller folks. You know, if you're 6 foot tall, you're gonna be able to fit on it, you're gonna be comfortable, you can ride it, but it's not really made for taller folks, it's made for smaller folks. The distance between the handlebar and the seat and how low the seat is. There's just not a lot of room inside the cockpit of this bike. An important change Honda did for 2020 model year is fit a new clutch design. This Rebel 500 employs a slipper assist type clutch. So when you're giving the motorcycle throttle, the clutch plates press together and help load the clutch better. Conversely, when you're off the throttle, the clutch plates come apart. Clutch pull has been reduced by 30%, says Honda. And you can literally manipulate the clutch with one finger. One finger, and you can manipulate the clutch. If you're someone who wants to learn how to ride a manual transmission-equipped motorcycle, this Rebel is a good machine to do it on, just because the clutch pull is so light. And the synchronization between the throttle and the clutch, it's so perfect. This Rebel 500 is powered by a 471cc water-cooled parallel twin, 8-valve cylinder head, dual overhead cam. This is the same parallel twin that Honda uses in its CBR 500R and other 500cc equipped motorcycles. And this engine's really neat. On our dyno, it put out nearly 41 horsepower. And what I really like about this motorcycle engine is that 90% of its peak torque it produces from as low as 2,300 RPM. Now, there's no tachometer on this motorcycle, so you're not going to be able to tell what RPM you're at, but you can still feel the RPM through the controls and through the sound of the engine, through the muffler. And having that 90% peak torque from as low as 2,300 RPM, it allows this motorcycle to accelerate off turns really well. Even if you launch in too high of a gear, it still will pull very well. Alright guys, now we're on the notoriously bumpy road. And the suspension on this motorcycle, right away when I rode this thing, I could tell how much more compliant the suspension is versus the 2017 Rebel. Now, the suspension on this motorcycle definitely has always been okay and got the job done, but with the stiffer springs and the nitrogen damping, the compliance of the suspension is just better. It goes over bumps better, it's more smooth, and that was one of the small squawks I had with the Rebel's predecessor. So it's nice to see that Honda is paying attention to the details. Now, Honda didn't stiffen up the suspension so much where if you're a smaller person, it's going to be too bouncy now. So good job to Honda to pay attention to the details. This round face instrument panel, I really like this display. It looks cool, it fits the aesthetics of the motorcycle well. Honda added a gear position indicator and a fuel gauge so you can keep tabs on the 3-gallon capacity of this bike. We've been averaging 35.7 miles per gallon, which is a little bit lower than you typically would get on this Rebel 500, but to be fair, we kind of zip around on this motorcycle and ride it a little faster than we should. While the suspension is more compliant, you are still going to feel some of those bumps. You got to remember, there's not even 4 inches of suspension travel at the back, almost 5 suspension at the 5 inches at the front. So you're going to feel the bumps, but overall the suspension is just more compliant. I like the sound of this engine. It has a pleasing little growl to it. It's definitely not too loud, but yet it's not too quiet either. 6-speed transmission, shifts gears between each cog very well. feels of high quality. There's a little bit more throw than other transmissions we've ridden recently, but it's really kind of a moot point, to be honest with you. Mirrors, I like the round shape of them. The engine has some vibration, so the view from the mirrors is going to be clouded a tad bit. Feel a little bit of vibration through the controls too, especially the handlebar. The rubber inside the foot pegs does a good job of damping that vibration, but you still feel a little bit of buzz here. Brakes. Single hydraulic disc brake up front, single hydraulic disc brake at the back. The 4-piston caliper. It's not radial mount, it's axial mount, so the bolts go in through the side through instead of straight on. But the brakes have good power and good feel. This Rebel 500 ABS model is outfitted with ABS, which prevents any wheel lockup. You can use the brakes as hard as you want, and you don't have to worry about the front tires skidding. If you're a new rider, you're absolutely going to want to bone up the $300 for ABS. Standard MSRP with the non-ABS is $6,200, $6,500 with ABS. So you're definitely going to want that feature. There's no control adjustability in the levers. The lever position's fixed, but I have medium-sized hands, so for me that's actually a good thing. I like the way the clutch and brake lever are positioned. And this thing goes around turns very well. It rolls on 16-inch cast alloy wheels shod with Dunlop tires. And part of the reason why this Rebel 500 uses such smaller diameter wheels is it allows it to have that low seat height. The 16-inch wheels also, they just allow for a very maneuverable motorcycle. This thing, with a full tank of gas, it weighs 414 pounds, but you would think that it weighs even less just by how maneuverable it is. Cruise control would be a nice addition on this bike, but I say that about every machine. So here we are riding on the freeway in top gear. This motorcycle absolutely is capable of freeway riding. But to be fair, not having a front fairing and having just the ergonomics of this bike aren't especially conducive to freeway style touring riding. If you have to hop on the freeway for a moment like we are right now, it's certainly capable of doing that, and it gets it done. But I wouldn't want to ride 40 or 50 miles on the freeway on this bike. It's just not designed for that. Though, to be fair, the engine's not revving excessively. You know, this thing could easily go 100 miles per hour. All right, a turn, guys. Ground clearance is a little bit low. You're gonna scrape the foot pegs, the bottom of the foot pegs a little bit, but at the same time, this bike still has enough aptitude to put a smile on your face going around clover leaves like we just did. And it's got plenty of engine power to get out of the way of the slow-paced traffic. Another turn, yes! Love this little Rebel 500. It's a peppy, fun little bike. Another neat accessory this Rebel has is this 12-volt power plug. You can use this to plug in a GPS or a USB style port so you can charge your gadgets. That's what I would do. here we are, guys. We're almost to the motorcyclist office in Southern California. It's been a fun little ride on the Rebel 500 ABS. Love how peppy this engine is. Now, these Rebels are built in Thailand, out of Honda's Thailand factory. And even though they're not built in Japan, the fit and finish on these bikes is just incredible. Like, these are very, very well built motorcycles. I especially like how handsome this bike is in its blue denim colorway. Looks really good. The fit and finish and all the controls is very high. This is a quality motorcycle. Of course, Honda stands behind its machine with a 1-year warranty. So if something does happen, you're covered for the first year of ownership. Alright guys, the wheelie test. Here we go. Let's disable traction control. Just joking. There is no traction control. Alright, let's see what she's got. Yep, she wheelies just fine. It's neat that you can buy an entry-level cruiser that actually pops wheelies. Now let's try the back-it-in test. ABS prevents that, but at the same time, that slipper clutch, you can feel that thing in action, and that's going to be a really handy feature for boys and girls learning to ride. If they downshift the transmission into too low of gear for the vehicle speed traveling, that slipper clutch helps mitigate any rear wheel instability. So it's a very handy feature for a new rider. Well, here we are, guys, to the motorcyclist office, and this was a fun little ride on the Rebel 500. Who knew riding a $6,500 motorcycle could be so fun? Well, guys, there it is, Honda's 2020 Rebel 500 ABS. This Rebel, like we said before, is outfitted with a number of accessories: those rubber fork boots, the 12-volt USB plug, the headlight cowling, and that cool 12-liter saddlebag and mount. This boosts the MSRP of this bike to $6,900. Would I spend my $6,900 on this bike? I love the Rebel. It runs and drives very well. It looks cool, but I wouldn't buy this motorcycle. I need something that's more high performance, that goes faster, goes further, and is more capable. But at the same time, I wouldn't dissuade anyone from buying this motorcycle. If you wanted a fun, easy, handsome cruiser to ride around town and you didn't want to spend a lot of money, I would absolutely buy this bike. I personally would buy it without ABS. I would save the $300. I like being able to slide the back tire, and I like being able to have some hijinks on my motorcycle. That's why I ride motorcycles, is to have fun, to excite myself. So I would spend the $6,300 on the non-ABS version. All right, guys, let's do some Q&A real quick, straight from the top. Right to the top, guys. Here we go. Needs a tachometer bad. It actually does not need a tachometer. You can hear the sound of the engine. You can feel it. You do not need a tachometer on this bike, but it would be a nice feature, but it's not a deal breaker for me. Can you imagine this as your only street legal bike? If I lived in a city like New York or some dense urban environment, yes, this could be a perfect motorcycle for that. It's compact, it's easy to ride, it's affordable. Absolutely. If you live somewhere where you're going to be going on the freeway a lot, this motorcycle will not be the best for this. Headlight at night. Yes, this headlight is very bright. If you're someone who rides after dark, you're going to want a motorcycle equipped with an LED headlight like this Rebel 500. Comfortable for someone 6 foot. 6 foot's about the limit. Anything taller, and you're going to be a little bit crunched. If you are smaller than 6 foot, you are going to like this bike a lot. The shorter the rider, the better for this machine. Well, that's a wrap from the 2020 Honda Rebel 500 ABS MC Commute. Make sure to check out the link in the description for our 2020 motorcycle rider study. We want to hear from you guys what motorcycling means to you. So please fill out that survey. There's a couple great prizes that you can win. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.